Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Very good. Thank you.
Perfect. We start in 30 seconds.
Good evening and welcome to the Committee of Adjustment for the Municipality of Bayham. It is Thursday, December the 19th, 2024, 6:45 p.m. and I will call this meeting to order. Remind everyone of disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Seeing none noted. Section 3, adoption of the minutes of the previous meeting. Motion reads that the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment meeting held November the 6th, 2024 be approved as presented. They've been circulated. Has everyone had opportunity to peruse them? There are no errors or omissions. I would entertain a mover and a seconder for that. Deputy Mayor Weiser and Committee Member Emerson will second. All in favor? That's carried. This evening, we're dealing with minor variance application A-2324, Augustine at 57873 Carson Line. The purpose of this variance is to grant relief from the following zoning bylaw regulations for the development of a detached accessory building for an additional residential unit, seeking relief from the following provisions. Section 4.59E, to permit an ARU with a maximum gross floor area that is 61.5% or 116 square meters or 1,248.6 square feet in size of the primary dwelling unit, 188.8 square meters or 2,032.2 square feet in size, whereas 40%, 75.5 square meters or 812.9 square feet is required. And section 4.59F, to permit an ARU that is located 75 meters, that's 246.1 feet from the primary dwelling unit, whereas 40 meters, 131.2 feet is required. Subject property is known as 57873 Carson Line, south side, west of Plank Road. The effect of this variance will be to facilitate the development of a detached accessory building for an ARU that exceeds the maximum permitted floor area and the maximum distance from the primary dwelling unit. At this point, we'll entertain a staff presentation through report DS 8724 by Margaret Underhill, Secretary Treasurer, regarding minor variance A 2324, Augustine at 57873 Carson Line. Good evening, Marg.
Good evening, Chairman and Committee. The report before you is for consideration of a minor variance for the placement of an ARU or additional residential unit on a property located at 57873 Carson Line. Subject lands are designated agriculture with natural heritage features and a portion of the property. Subject lands also have a hazard lands and a portion of the property as a constraint shown on Schedule A2 of the official plan. Subject property is currently zoned A1 agriculture with LPRCA regulation limit in a portion of the property. Purpose of the variant has been stated that they're looking for relief from the zoning bylaws sections 4.59E and 4.59F. The effect of the variances will be to facilitate the development of a detached accessory building for an ARU that exceeds the maximum permitted floor area and the maximum distance from the primary dwelling. Committee of Adjustment must be satisfied that the application meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act for a minor variance. The planner's memorandum dated December 11, 2024 outlines the full analysis of the 4 tests and the variances required for compliance. And the planner's report is attached to this report. After the publishing of the agenda, we did receive correspondence from LPRCA dated December the 16th, 24. As long as their comment was that as long as the development is outside the regulated area, they have no issue. And the area that is proposed for the ARU is outside of the regulated area. Municipal planner and staff, we concur that the application meets the criteria to grant relief from sections 4.59E and 4.59F. And I leave it with you, Mr. Chair, for the committee's consideration.
All right, thank you very much for that report, Mark. Any questions from the Committee of Adjustment? Mark, was there any other correspondence submitted with this or on this particular file?
There was not on this one.
Okay.
Just the Long Point region came in after the publishing.
All right. I'm thinking it must be of another report the Federation of Agriculture might have commented on.
Excuse me, just let me make sure. I think they made comment, sorry, I think they made comment one other.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
I'd like to just.
all right. At this point, we'll call for any presentations by the applicant or the agent. Is anyone present who wants to make a presentation on this? Okay,
Or if anyone wants to sign.
we'll have you just come up and sign in. That's what happens when you speak up, but that's fine.
Okay.
While the applicant's signing in, does anyone have any questions for her?
Thank you everybody's time today to review this application. It's for my parents to hopefully come live with us on our farm. Yep, sorry, it's for my parents to hopefully come live with us on our farm. And happy to address any questions. We tried to keep it to the far east, which is far away from the Long Point Region Conservation area that's of concern with the ravines there. And it'll be back behind trees and behind a wooded tree line, so it shouldn't really impact the neighbors at all. A short bungalow with low height, sandy colors to try to match the natural surroundings. So yes, I did, because the mail's not going out, I did reach out to my neighbors around me to make sure I addressed any of their concerns as well. Perfect. And that they're aware of what the project is.
Okay, thank you. Any public submissions other than like LPRCA wouldn't be a public submission?
No other public
Okay.
comments.
Okay. And I guess we've already gone through the committee questions and so let's go to the committee decision then. We have a proposed motion that reads that the Committee of Adjustment Secretary Treasurer's Report DS 8724 regarding the Augustine minor variance be received, and that the Committee of Adjustment considered all written and oral submissions received on this application, the effect which helped the committee to make an informed decision. And whereas the committee agrees that the proposed variance as presented meets section 45(1) of the Planning Act and is considered minor, therefore application A 2324 submitted by Ryan and Adrian, did I pronounce that right? Thank you. Augustine, pursuant to section 45 of the Planning Act for a minor variance, is granted to allow relief from the municipality of Bayham zoning bylaw number Z456/2003, specifically section 4.59E, permit an ARU with a maximum gross floor area that is 61.5%, 116 square meters, or 1,248.6 square feet in size, of the primary dwelling unit, 188.8 square meters, or 2,032.2 square feet in size, whereas 8%, 75.5 square meters or 812.9 square feet is required. And section 4.59F to permit an ARU that's located 75 meters, 246.1 feet from the primary dwelling unit, whereas 40 meters or 131.2 feet is required. Mover and seconder, please. Committee member Weiser, committee member Chilcott, all in favor. That is carried. The adjournment motion that the Committee of Adjustment meeting for consideration of minor variance application A 2324 be adjourned at 6:55 PM. And that in accordance with the regulations of the Planning Act, notices of decision be circulated by the Secretary Treasurer accordingly. Mover and seconder, please. Committee member Chilcott, committee member Emerson will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We are adjourned. Good evening and welcome to the regular session of council for the municipality of Bayham. It is Thursday, December the 19th, 2024, 7:01 PM. And I will call this meeting to order. Remind members of any disclosures of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Well, in the mic, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just make you aware of 12.1.1B.
Thank you. No.
Yeah.
We'll do it in the planning. Sorry about that. I was gonna say, I don't
Caught me
know,
off guard.
declaring a conflict on that one, but that's okay. All right, thank you. Review of items not listed on the agenda.
One item tonight, Mr. Mayor, it'll be a closed session verbal update, labor relations, employee negotiations, a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality local board, CUPE.
Thank you. Section 4, announcements this evening. Does anyone have any announcements? Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick reminder that the municipal office will be closed effective noon on December 24th, in observation of the Christmas and New Year's holidays, and will be reopening at 8:30 in the morning on Thursday, January the 2nd, 2025. Second announcement is a reminder to all that 2024 bag tags for Bayham do expire. We are coming up to year end, so make sure that you're using those bag tags because as of January the 1st, they will no longer be usable.
All right, thank you for that. Any other? Councillor Chilcott.
Thank you. I just wanted to wish everyone a very safe and Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year, and hopefully we'll see you all back in the new year.
Thank you for that sentiment. Seeing none other, and you stole my thunder, so that's fine. Let's move on with the section 6. The presentation this evening will be deferred till 8 o'clock. So we're moving on with section 7, excuse me, adoption of the minutes of previous meetings. We had a special meeting of council held December the 12th, 2024. Everyone's had opportunity to peruse those minutes. If there are no errors or omissions, I need a mover and seconder for the following. It's already pre-populated, so you know what you're going to do. That the minutes from the special meeting of council held December the 12th, 2024 be approved as presented. Does that sound good to you, Deputy Mayor?
I will move.
How about, thank you, Councillor Chilcott. All in favor? That's carried. Section 8, motions and notice of motion. Number A, Councillor Chilcott regarding donation to school food programs. Councillor Chilcott, how do you want to handle this? Do you wish to read it out? Have the clerk read it out? It's got to be moved and seconded before we have a discussion on it.
I will absolutely allow the clerk to read it out.
Motion is whereas the cost of living continues to rise, causing many families to not be able to afford basic necessities like groceries, and whereas school food programs are in place to help provide children with food while at school, and whereas the Stratfordville Public School and Port Burwell Public School have a food program in place, and whereas the municipality of Bayham is desirous of providing support to these school food programs, therefore, be it resolved that the remaining funds in the municipal assistance line of $1,000 be donated equally to the Stratfordville Public School and Port Burwell Public School food programs before the end of 2024.
All right, Councillor Chilcott, I see that you're willing to move this particular motion. We do need a seconder. Councillor Emerson. Okay, discussion. Councillor Chilcott.
Thank you again. I just wanted to bring this to everyone's attention. We were at a staff meeting and one of our staff members brought it to our attention and we were asked, why aren't we helping with it? And children being hungry and going to school without food and lunches is not just a Bayham issue. It's all around us. Tillsonburg does a backpack program where the kids get a backpack at the end of the week. They take it home so they have food to eat over the weekend. and they add a little bit so that their brothers and sisters can eat as well. I just think that it's important that we do what we can to help these kids get a healthy day and be able to focus on their schoolwork and not on their stomachs. And Fort Burwell, I spoke to the principal there, and she said they used to have a brown bag program where people made lunches. They had a set group, donated their time, and they made lunches for these kids so that they would have something to eat, a sandwich, an apple, and a yogurt, something like that. They've lost so much funding lately that the only thing they can do is a snack program. So it's an important thing to get behind and try and help these children and families.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Anyone else? Okay, just the other night I was, well, actually Sherry was perusing through some of the CBC stuff. I know I flipped you an article. I understand that there is some relief coming from the federal government, to augment some of the school lunch programs. That doesn't address the need today. I get that. But just to keep that in mind. Well,
Scheme of things, but it's better.
It's better than nothing, but still, that's the point. I would also remind that, from a municipal point of view, I agree that the need is here, and if we happen to have something available within this grant envelope, I don't have a problem with using those funds accordingly. I would think that going forward, council needs to have a discussion on what we should and should not be funding. There is a larger poverty and hungry issues are becoming more and more prevalent all the time. I know that we have at least 2 pantries operating within the community. I do know also that there is a cleaning operation operating out of Malahide called the Harvest Bowl that provides dehydrated soup mixes manufactured there that are spread across different kitchens and in Elgin. We had the opportunity to bring 150 of those mixes down for the food pantries. I'm wondering if something, this is for the discussion in the operation budget, whether we should be turning our attention to trying to find some mechanism to help support that as well. Having said that, I don't have an issue of taking the grant funds that we have here now and spreading that across the 2 schools because the need is now and imminent. Any other comments or questions? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a clarification question, because I thought we had exhausted that budget line.
We consulted with the treasurer on that, and there was $1,000 left.
Was that sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm wondering, was that allocation that we had set aside for policing and just in the event of excess portable washroom
Yes.
expenses? So we didn't exhaust it. So, okay.
But you're absolutely right. So
Yeah.
it's something to be cognizant of when we come
Mhm.
forward with the next iteration of the 25 budget from an operations point of view. Is this something that we should make a deal or we should be building into our budget? Is this a one-off? I'm not sure. I don't know what going ahead looks like.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a comment, because I know that the municipal assistance program last year was well subscribed to, and then we ended up decreasing those allocations to the community. So it's unfortunate that we weren't able to give them everything that they asked for, a
Right.
benefit at the end of the year to have this conversation that we didn't exceed the contingencies, obviously. But yeah, you're right.
Mhm.
It is going to be a budget discussion for sure.
Okay. Any more comments and or questions from any member of council? Okay, and let's call the question. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Item B from Councillor Froese regarding non-union work from home policy. Same thing, Councillor Froese. Would you like to read the motion? Have the clerk read this one out.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Have the clerk read it, please.
Whereas the COVID-19 pandemic resulted in a number of municipal staff across Ontario to work from home, and whereas the ability to work from home was applicable for some BAM staff to continue to provide service during the pandemic, and whereas Council for the Municipality of BAM adopted a non-union work from home policy on August 19th, 2021 to formalize this ability to work from home, and whereas the pandemic is now ended and all staff are back working in the office, therefore be it resolved that the non-union work from home policy be repealed.
Okay. I note that you're willing to move that, Councillor Froese.
Yes, sir.
Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Chilcott. Discussion. Any questions from staff or from council? Councillor Froese.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I just, last meeting, we had a proposal to shut down over lunch. And I was just thinking more bodies would alleviate, hopefully alleviate some of that pressure of answering the phone and meeting the people during the lunch hour. Also thinking, reading and listening to news, Amazon, X, Apple, Google, the Canadian government, US government, they're all heading this direction, right? And hopefully it'll foster some strong teamwork, innovation, and productivity. Maybe we can get away from some of that COVID stuff we all went through, right?
Thank you. Additional comments, questions from other or additional council members? Councillor Emerson.
I would have to agree from the information we were presented at the last council meeting that it would, at least we have to take a look at the work from home policy and at the very minimum become a little more stringent or reduce the number of days available. But in general, I'm in support of Dan's motion.
Okay. I'm going to ask staff to step in here for a minute, but first of all, I'm going to suggest that this was an issue that was brought forward to council in May. It's a closed session item, I believe, at the time, and it has subsequently been brought forward again. Remind me, was that an open or closed session, Thomas? Do you recall?
It was part of HR update in August. It was closed session.
Closed session. So it's been dealt with under 2 closed session items. Before I go too much further, I'm just going to suggest that I'm not aware of any particular work from home scenarios that are taking place today, but I will let staff address that.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. At this point in time, as advised in August, and that has continued over the fall, we have no staff currently on regular work from home programs under this policy.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about some of the work after hours. Are you aware of anything that's taking place after hours, Thomas?
Well, there are a number of staff members by virtue of their positions being managerial, especially with the small staff that have to put in off hours and weekend work. Based upon the way that this motion is written, however, that would not affect any of that work from home that would have to continue either for operational, emergency, or legislative requirements.
Okay. Anything else that staff feel would be pertinent information for us to dispatch or to deal with this particular motion?
The only thing I can add to this, Mr. Mayor, is that yes, there are some companies that are moving back to fully working in the office. However, there are a number of municipalities, and including in Elgin County, that continue to have work from home provisions as a recruitment and retention tool, and to also provide additional flexibility to staff, so long as staff continue to do their jobs that they have been hired to do. I can advise that, for instance, Malahide and Elgin County still have the ability for some form of hybrid work. Given that this policy generally hasn't been utilized, council can choose to dial it back and repeal it at this time, but it would work as a recruitment tool should we have staff turnover, and it does provide additional operational flexibility if something does arise with staff, that we can continue to get additional productivity out of our lean staff complement.
All right. Anything additional from any member? Counselor Emerson.
Just a question through you, Mr. Mayor. If there is nobody currently working from home, what negative consequence does revoking the policy have?
Does revoking the policy? As the CAO just mentioned, this could be used as a recruitment tool, offering the opportunity there could be.
Just as one other point to that too, if we're ever in a position in the next few years where we have to expand staff complement, council's aware that we don't have any expandable room in the office currently. So if we were to expand our non-union staffing capacity in whatever function, we would be necessitated to permit a work from home and an office sharing arrangement to facilitate additional staff.
Counselor Froze.
Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. I think that can all be negotiated into contracts. We did it with the previous bylaw officer, if I'm not mistaken. I would also ask the same question. If nobody's working from home, then there should be no harm.
Okay, it's a little confusing there. We can't negotiate this with a particular recruitment if the policy does not exist. That's the point that the CAO is trying to point out.
And we come up with a new policy.
I would like to know what is broken with the existing policy, Counselor.
So if nobody's using this, CAO and clerk, you guys have not worked from home a single day in the last month?
Let's don't go there too far and too hard. I would say you're currently remote, Counselor Froze.
Yes,
Are
I
you
am.
working from home?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you.
I have a special family medical issue, if that's okay. And if you want to go there, if you want me to keep track of the hours I spend in the community, talking to people, listening to people, helping people, I'll guarantee you, I don't make minimum wage, Mr. Mayor. So if you want to go there, let's start comparing. I'm good with that.
Okay, Council, what do you want to do? I'm prepared to call the question unless you have any further conversation or discussion on this. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. I just to clarify with staff, this policy was put in place during COVID, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so prior to supplementary through you, Mr. Mayor, just prior to COVID, what policies, if any, did we have in place that addressed a hybrid? We didn't really have a hybrid function before then, did we?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, there wasn't a specific hybrid function. However, by virtue of their positions, a number of staff members are issued corporate technology to work off-site because managers have to provide off-hour support ultimately to make sure that functions, legislative or otherwise, are essentially completed. To note, and council has received this information before this policy, there were opportunities for certain staff members, should they have that corporate technology, to work remote if sick, or if there's a family matter, or off hours and evenings and weekends, to make sure that operations and legislative requirements are maintained. Essentially, that is 95% of the work from home that exists in the municipality right now. Repealing that policy will not impact any of that off hours work. Again, the way that the motion is written, it doesn't impact managerial responsibilities and otherwise. And further to note that we do not currently have any staff members that have a regular work from home arrangement under this policy.
Thomas, in the absence of a particular policy, of this policy, should someone have a medical appointment that it's more advantageous for them to work half the day from the house than attend the medical appointment, is that something that can be approved through the management?
Absolutely.
Without this policy, in the absence of this policy?
Absolutely. That's past practice that predates me.
So what's the difference? Deputy Mayor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The only difference is repealing it now may impact future recruitment.
Correct. No, what I meant is how is repealing this going to change anything? That's what I was getting at.
Well, through you, just another question then to address that. Then how did it get to the situation where people were asking for relief over answering the phone or entertaining guests during lunch hour? If
Well,
there were
you're-
short people
Those
there,
Yeah, you're straying on the
They're different.
topic here.
Different.
But yes, we need to address that particular issue going forward. Council authorized that system to be put in place. And it's not. So. Short answer. All right, just finishing debate on this, Councilor Froze?
Sure. That is actually the issue. Staff available to answer the phone at lunch. That is the issue. We're in a public service industry. Public service. How can we do that from home? It doesn't work.
No frontline staff have work from home permissions at this time.
And yet the mayor won't let you answer the question.
I beg your pardon.
Yeah, you wouldn't let him answer the question if they had worked from home the last month.
No frontline staff have work from home permissions at this time. And since council received this information in the summer, no staff have had regular work from home permissions.
No frontline staff. CAO, clerk,
To reiterate, management, by virtue of their role, often have to work off hours, evenings, and weekends. Should staff have medical appointments necessitating them to be off-site, they are provided the flexibility to work off hours and at home during business hours to ensure that municipal business is completed. Otherwise, municipal business is not completed. That's the flexibility required of the small staff complement that we have.
again, then this policy doesn't affect that at all.
That's correct.
But retaining the policy offers an inducement from a recruitment point of view, whether it's exercised or not.
That is correct.
Are we done? Can we call the question? Councillor Chilcott.
I just had a question on, you said that they're approved absences or work from home. Is that on a 1-by-1,
Mhm.
not a matter of, you know what, for the next 6 months, you can work every Thursday from home?
That's correct. They're all one-off.
Thank you.
All right, any further? All in favor of the motion? Opposed? The motion carries 3-2. We have 5 minutes. Moving on with section 11, physical services and emergency services. 11.2 reports to council. Report or PS 1624 by Steve Adams, Manager of Public Works Drainage Superintendent regarding tender award RFP 0424 portable washroom supply placement and cleaning for 2025 to 2028. Steve.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening. Yes, the report before you is to award the tender for the portable washroom supply placement and cleaning for the term 2025 to 2028. November 18th, 2024, staff issued the RFT 0424 for the supply and placement. This was a multi-year term, 4 years, with the ability in the 4th year for a 1.5% increase on this. So in the report or in the RFT, 11 locations were specified where we annually install these portable toilets. 9 of them, which are 6-month terms, 2 of them, which are year-round service. So staff on December 10th closed with 3 bids submitted. The following within the RFT, for costing, we are looking for monthly rental for the regular units, monthly rental for the accessible units, daily, weekly, and extra cleaning costs, and 24-hour emergency costs. So within the 3 bids, prices were identified, and Environmental E360 Solutions, they ended up coming in at the lowest bid price, which is actually an increase of 2.4% from 2024. So very aggressive. Staff definitely didn't see this. It's been since 2018. We've had this open. What used to be through Affordable Portables, which was taken over by Environmental E360. The transition, there hasn't been any extra since the takeover in 2023, earlier 2023. So annually staff are budget around 12 to 14,000 for these portable toilets. Moving forward, obviously with little increase, it would be roughly the same at these locations. Identified in the report, if additional units are wanted or needed, comes out to about 1,100 a month, or sorry, for a 6-month period. So if we were to add some, I did identify in the report daily, weekly costs, and with other than the 1.5% at the end of 2028, I do think it's a pretty good bid. Very aggressive. Talking to the company, they're trying to work in everywhere, trying to get their hands in many places, and staff are only believing this is just for a long-term procurement for them. So moving forward, staff are recommending utilizing the Environmental E360 for the 2025 to 2028. If there's any questions.
All right, thank you, Steve, for that report. Does anyone have any questions? Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. Steve, you mentioned that the E360 is a takeover from the previous Affordable Portables.
That's correct.
Do we have any concerns in regards to their previous service?
Yeah, through your worship. We definitely did at the beginning of the year. We did work through a few of them. Number one, and it wasn't in our last contract, was the 24-hour service or emergency service. At the beginning of this year, we did utilize it 3 times. It actually, the rest of the year, it kind of petered out. We didn't, I think maybe at the beach, we did actually have an extra. So that cost is minimal. They now offer a 24-hour service. So they did meet the criteria within this. So we're pretty, other than the extra cleaning per week, all bidders bid pretty much the same on that. So yeah.
Additional questions,
Supplementary.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. Just to clarify, then the cleaning services that we've had with them have been satisfactory.
Yes, after we worked through the summer, definitely they needed to understand. To be honest, they didn't really realize what the agreement we formally had. So that had to be brought to their attention. So they had to make it available, and I can't say anything bad about them since there's no letters given to them past those dates. So I'd still recommend moving forward with them for the cost.
Additional questions? Recognizing you have 1 minute. Okay, seeing none. Thank you again, Steve, for your report. We have a motion that reads that report PS 1624 regarding tender award RFT 0424. Portable washroom supply, placement and cleaning for 2025 to 2028. And that 2025-2028 portable washroom be awarded to Environmental 360 Solutions Limited in accordance with their tender submission. And that the council, the corporation, and municipality of Bayham direct staff to bring forward a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Environmental E360 Solutions Limited for the provision of 2025 to 2028 portable washroom supply placement and cleaning. Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Chilcott. Deputy Mayor Weisler, all in favor. Okay, that's carried. Thank you. We will now recess from our regular meeting in order to go into a public planning meeting. All right, I call this statutory planning meeting to order. It is 7:31 PM. I will look to the committee for any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof.
No, one at a time, according to Megan.
One that can't do that to me. Okay, so we're dealing with the proposed zoning amendment ZBA 2624 Weber at 53867 Heritage Lawn. The purpose of bylaw amendment is to rezone the subject property from Hamlet Residential Zone to site-specific Hamlet Residential Zone to permit a reduced lot frontage of 19.9 meters and a reduced lot area of 755 square meters. The portion of the lands to be rezoned only pertains to retained lot as that's parcel E, as part of the consent application E 2724 that was approved by Elgin Land Division Committee. The subject property is known as 53867 Heritage Line, south side and east of Richmond Road. The effect of this bylaw is to permit a reduced minimum lot frontage, minimum lot area for the proposed retained lot, parcel E, as part of clearing the consent conditions for approval for Elgin Land Division Committee file number E 2724 that was conditionally approved on April the 24th in 2024. At this point, I will call for any public participation. Anyone wishing to speak to this file, please attend the podium. Mark, is there any correspondence with this file?
There's no correspondence, Your Worship.
Thank you. I would note that there is no other business with this file, which brings us to the adjournment motion. That the zoning bylaw be considered at a future meeting of council and that pursuant to the Planning Act requirements, the second public meeting for zoning application ZBA 2624 is now complete at 7:33 PM. Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Chilcott, Counselor Emerson. All in favor? That's carried. Now call this second public meeting to order at 7:33 PM. I will ask for disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof.
That would be me.
That would be you.
I would
You can
excuse
step away.
myself.
Counselor Emerson has declared pecuniary interest. This public meeting is held to deal with the proposed zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 2724 and the proposed official plan amendment OPA 0424 for 1498855 Ontario Inc. at 92 Edison Drive. The purpose of this combined official plan and zoning bylaw amendment is to permit the proposed micro distillery use with ancillary retail and event space on private services within an existing building on the subject property known as 92 Edison Drive, north side in the village of Vienna. Through the official plan amendment, the southwestern portion of the subject property will be designated from the open space and hazard lands designation to the commercial designation. Through the zoning bylaw amendment, the southwestern portion of the subject property will be rezoned from the current holding village residential 1, the R1H2 zone, to a holding site-specific tourist commercial C3 XXH2 zone, limiting the purpose or proposed use to a maximum floor area of 450 square meters. That's 4,843.76 square feet. The effect of this combined official plan and zoning bylaw amendment is to permit the proposed micro distillery business with an ancillary retail and event space on private services for a maximum floor area of 450.0 square meters, 4,843.76 square feet within an existing building on the subject property. At this point, I will call for any public participation on this particular application. If you wish to speak to it, please come forward, sign at the podium.
It's Wendy Carmichael. May I speak?
All right, we'll take Wendy first. You're on Zoom. Okay.
Oh, I can wait. It
Nope,
matters.
we'll get someone else to sign in and they'll speak after you. Go ahead, please,
Thank you
Wendy.
so much. Thank you. So one of my, I have some concerns and some questions, and I'm not quite sure how to do this, but I'll just present them and you can direct me if you will, please. Thank you for allowing me to speak. So one of my questions is, in the planning, will there be any alteration to the side of the river that will prevent any kind of flood from occurring? So it would be naturally a floodplain. Would there be anything like berms or anything that would be put there to mitigate that issue so that the flow will actually enter the other part of the residential area as opposed to that land? Do you want me to continue with the questions or?
Continue on with the questions yeah,
Surely.
we'll address those.
The other question is traffic issues in terms of the road, the Edison Road is coming directly off of that significant problematic area of the bridge on Plank Road. And so it's a small street and it's in the flood zone. So there's danger in terms of coming immediately off of that bridge and turning right for increased traffic. I think there needs to be a study done in that. I think there should be a study done with regard to the potential for flooding and how that impacts on the egress to the lands. That's one other question and request. Also, how it impacts on noise for those residents living on that street. And in terms of, I appreciate that it's a small micro distillery, but there will still be trucks. Pardon me, I'm so sorry. There will still be trucks bringing in equipment in terms of the raw vegetation needed to make it so the rye or whatever is going, barley, whatever is going to be used. There will be trucks, whatever waste is left. I know that that it's been suggested that goes to the land, but that in itself comes with problems. So I think there needs to be an ecological study in terms of determining the effect on the animals, because those toxins that come off of the waste product can affect the endocrine systems of the animals that will be eating the waste from the distillery. I think that there's also an issue regarding the fish. So should there be any kind of a leakage, it will have, or any kind going into the river, it will have tremendous impact on the ecological system in terms of the plankton and the fish itself, in terms of how it will impact on them. Also, it's been suggested in some studies that the actual waste put out onto the lands impacts on the seedlings of any vegetation coming and on pasture lands. There's a concern for erosion in terms of the hillside itself. If there's not access to the site, will it be then considered coming from light line, and how will that impact in terms of the actual erosion of that hillside? Is there actually I'm sorry, I didn't have the Hydro G report. I want to thank Margaret, first of all, because she was excellent in providing information. I want to thank Tim for going to the extent of having an engineer look at everything. But I think that that part of it, there's a concern in terms of Conservation Ontario, how the environmental changes rivers. I think there are studies significant to indicate how it can be changed if people have not. And I appreciate that Tim has probably purchased equipment that is in his best interest and in the interest of the distillery. But there's also equipment that is in the interest of the environment. And it would need to be some sort of an assurance that equipment helps the water in terms of recirculation of water, so we can conserve the water, a study of the aquifer to determine that we can in fact manage the continual demand. At one point, it was indicated, and I appreciate that the engineers don't maybe say this, but say it differently, but it says it takes 114 liters of water to provide a liter of whiskey. Now that's probably exorbitant, but that was one of the things that I could see. The other was unfortunately related to breweries. It was suggested there was increased acidity to the soil, so there needs to be soil studies because it's in an agricultural rural area. The parking will be on floodplains, hazard lands. What has happened in the hazard lands that has mitigated the hazards of the land? The liquid waste, so that which he does not provide to the animals, where will that waste go? And hopefully it won't be in any kind of a system where they burn it off, because that would be, again, concern for the air. So is there a water recovery? We have to talk about air pollution. That's one of the concerns, road safety, heat recovery. So the additional vehicles that come will increase the carbon in terms of the carbon imprint, and heat recovery. Is there heat recovery so that we're considering the environment? So greenhouse gases is a major concern. So there are studies out there, but I think it's essential as well. I appreciate that Long Point has made their statements, but who has looked into the imprint that a distillery, even though a micro distillery, actually makes on agricultural land in the midst of a residential area? And I appreciate what he's doing. I truly do, because I support historical facts, and even the idea of what he's doing is incredible, to bring back what happened in this area in terms of the railroad, in terms of the Underground Railroad, and all to do with all of the alcohol. But there needs to be further investigation before council makes a decision so impactful and long-term on the citizens of this area. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Wendy, those concerns have been noted by staff, and I assume they'll be addressed in the report that comes forward to council. All
Thank
right?
you so much.
Please, you are.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, Mr. Mayor. My name is Paul Hind. I'm a planner with Strict Baldinelli Manez. I'm here tonight to represent our client, the numbered company, which is long in nature, 1498855 Ontario Inc., in care of Timothy Emerson, who I believe everyone is very aware of who he is. So I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I just wanted to, and also want to thank Ms. Underhill for our continued dialogue.
Please be right in the mic so that they can hear you at home.
Okay.
Thank
Can thank Ms. Underhill for continued dialogue as we proceed through this. By no means is this the end result. We'll continue to have some dialogue with Ms. Underhill as we move forward. I did want to just raise a few things tonight. You eloquently described the purpose and the effect of the proposed official plan and zoning bylaw. And in part of that, it is proposed that a micro distillery with ancillary retail, and the critical word is event space, on private services. I want to reiterate, or I want to stress to council that a micro distillery isn't defined in the bylaw, first of all. Retail is defined to a certain extent, and event space is not defined. By no means is my client intending to have event space where could be interpreted as being something like where wedding receptions are being held or where there's a large gathering. The event space is merely to provide for what really is an interpretation and information center associated with the history of distillery in this area. So many of the concerns that I just heard from the previous speaker, I can speak to later on, but the event space maybe while we're working with Ms. Underhill, we take away the word event space and really just call it as it is, which is going to be the interpretation and information center. The other issue that I want to have further dialogue with Ms. Underhill, and we've had some conversation through emails and the like, is that we want to ensure that when a bylaw is being brought forward, that the micro distillery and ancillary and interpretation center is not going to be the only sole use that's ever going to be permitted on the proposed commercial designated and zoned parcel. If the distillery chooses to close in the future for any number of reasons, that would leave the parcel with literally no permitted use on that land. And so we want to work with Ms. Underhill in looking at other commercial uses that are already instilled within the bylaw that would be also carried forward on this property, recognizing the hydrogeological report, the traffic considerations, the environmental considerations, and everything like that. And that we're hoping that when a bylaw is brought forward to committee, that there's going to be a broader range of permitted uses than solely just one singular use. I know that Ms. Underhill has had some discussion with your planning consultant who has provided some dialogue. And although we're in general agreement with some of his concerns and some of our concerns, we're just wanting to be working forward with that a little bit further. Would you like me to speak to some of the concerns that were raised by the previous, or
You can, we will limit you to about, we
okay.
got 4 or 5 more minutes on this.
Okay, very, very clearly, I can say that the proposed micro distillery and all of the ancillary uses in the interpretation center are to occur in the existing buildings. There's no new development being proposed. So the concerns of if a berm is being constructed, or if there's any flooding ingress egress issues, or fish and waste and erosion, it's all happening within the existing buildings. The Long Point Region Conservation Authority has been instrumental. They've been circulated on this. They were the ones through pre-consultation that suggested that the hydrogeologic report be undertaken, and we undertook that in accordance with the direction from the pre-consultation. We are working with EXP, the hydrogeologist, to answer 7 issues that were raised in the hydrogeologic report, and that will be carried out in the coming days, and because of the holiday season coming first of the new year. We're hoping to be able to meet with Ms. Underhill on the 6th or 7th of January to try to formulate a bylaw so that it's coming through to council in accordance with the prescribed time limitations of the provincial planning policy. There has not been any issues raised by the conservation with respect to waste or erosion or fish or the noise or the flooding or berms, things like that. A lot of those issues would also be addressed through a site plan. We're only dealing with a zoning bylaw at this stage. We're not dealing with a site plan. And some of those issues could be deferred until a later point in time at the appropriate mechanism when the planning application is brought forward. I would just finally want to summarize that, reminding that the lands are currently zoned for residential purposes. There's clearly could be an increase in traffic along Edison Road if the lands were developed for the purposes permitted as of right now. And so looking at it as being really a hobby type use that's being proposed by our client as a micro distillery, and the information to educate people about the history of micro distillery or distillery activity historically is something that could be beneficial and provide for a tourism attraction to the municipality. I'll answer any other questions if appropriate, and I don't know if Harrison, my client, would like to speak.
But can I? You can come forward, same difference, sign in. Please.
As you know, I am the president of 1498855 Ontario Inc. My name is Tim Emerson. I work with my wife and just a little teeny bit of background. And by trade, I am a ruminant nutritionist. And just to clear up some misconceptions before we get too far into this, and to reassure some concerns expressed by Wendy, and I'm sure other people feel the same way. This is not really a commercial distillery. It's a small micro, the smallest unit I could buy. And just to start out, anybody that knows my wife and I know we are deeply committed to the community. We know we like to have a good time, and we like to raise money for community, and we're deeply invested in the history of, especially my wife, in this area, and the promotion of business and the economy of our area. The sole intention of this place is to explore the history a bit of not the soul of the area, the deep history in distilling and prohibition and in the loyalist movement, and how that affected and impacted the wealth and prosperity of generally poor people that immigrated to this area, including the Underground Railroad, which has a significant tie to the farm. So we just want to move forward and promote, and all we're looking for is another reason or another thing to stop and do in the area. I just want to explain to people that walk through this history and what we're attempting to do, and make a quality product, hopefully sell a small bottle to everybody in a t-shirt and a hat, and send them on their way and give them a tour of the area. In addition, the whole circular nature of the farming that I've done, I've completely changed my system of farming. My farm is pretty much the south half in permanent pasture now. There is no waste product being spread on the land. There is a feeder wagon that I would put the spent grains, which is common practice in my business of feeding distillers grains, brewers grains, soybean oils, definite amount of waste products. I want to demonstrate that a cow-calf operation can actually, a 60 cow-calf operation can actually sequester 100 ton of carbon a year. And I'm all for promoting the local area, and for promoting farming, and particular livestock farming, which I made my living making animals healthier and wise, healthier and a better food quality product for our people. And that's pretty much it. There is no malice. I don't intend to have large parties there. If it should develop, I would come back before council and ask for ancillary uses at that time. But I have a small amount of money invested in this, and I don't know what's going to happen. Right. I don't see any negative. I don't see any discharge. I see potential that I will grow my grains and process them through and become more circular in nature. I will admit there will be some CO2 release and fermentation, but we are only talking about at the most making 30 gallons of alcohol or 30 liters of alcohol a day. It's just a fun little project, and it's my little vanity project that I'm just attached to the area and the whole concept. But that's it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Anyone else from the public wants to participate? Okay, Mark, any correspondence?
No public written comments at this time.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And I note no other business. We'll move on with the adjournment. That the zoning bylaw and official plan amendment be considered at a future meeting of council, and that pursuant to the Planning Act requirements, the second public meeting for zoning application. And dock your pay for that, Madam Clerk. That the pursuant of the Planning Act requirements. For zoning application ZBA 2724 and OPA 0424 is now complete at 7:55 PM. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Chilcott, Deputy Mayor Weiser. All in favor? That one's carried. Okay. Moving on, we're going to call the third public meeting to order at 7:55 PM. Councilor Emerson, you may resume your seat. Now, last for any disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. This public meeting is to deal with the proposed zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 2824, Able at 54437 Vienna Line. The purpose of this bylaw amendment is to rezone the subject property from agricultural A1 zone to site-specific agricultural A1 XX zone to facilitate the development of a detached accessory building for an additional residential unit, an ARU, seeking relief from the following provisions. Section 4.59E. Permit an ARU with a gross floor area that is 74%, that's 139.4 square meters, or 1,500.5 square feet in size of the primary dwelling unit, which is 188.0. Are we sure? Because that's the same dimensions as the Committee of Adjustment. Isn't it? No, that's this one right here. Mark? 188.0 square meters? Close for my call. While she's confirming, I'll carry on then. Or 2,023.6 square feet in size, whereas 40% or 75.2 square meters or 809.4 square feet is a requirement. And section 4.59F to permit an ARU that is located 61.1 meters, 200.1 feet from the primary dwelling unit, whereas 40 meters or 131.2 feet is a requirement. The subject property is known as 54437 Vienna Line, south side and east of Woodworth Road. The effect of this bylaw is to facilitate the development of a detached accessory building for an ARU that exceeds the maximum permitted floor area and the maximum distance from the primary dwelling unit. Okay, at this point, we will entertain public participation from anyone wishing to discuss the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, ZBA 2824 Able. Anyone wishing to speak to this, please attend the podium. Sign in. Okay.
Thank you, council, and thank you, honorable mayor. I'm Nathaniel, and I'm the son of Barb and Kevin Abel of 54437 Vienna Line. We are looking to build a 1,500 square foot house located 61.1 meters from the existing primary dwelling. On this current location is a vacant foundation from an old barn that is currently unused. My parents are looking to build a house there for their children so that they can be able to help out with the farm as they age. Now, it's a tale as old as time where farmers, as they age, are unable to continue maintaining their land, and it's eventually sold off. My family's goal is to be able to maintain this land within our family, as we are generational farmers within the area. Some of you well know my grandmother, Bonnie Chute. This will not detract from any existing agricultural land, as is a major concern for the provincial planning, as you well know. Because we are hoping to take the space that's currently occupied by a foundation, that land will not ever be functional as agricultural land. We're hoping to just entirely remove the foundation and turn it into a residential space. The province acknowledges the need for increased housing as there are various acts being passed to increase the amount of ARUs being allowed on properties and speed up the process, as you well know. Our goal is to improve sustainability for our area and to use the amenities that are already accessible to us. We're not trying to remove any agricultural land. Our goal is to allow for using land that's already unused rather than using municipal land like parks or beaches, using land that is currently unusable whatsoever. I acknowledge that there have been similar cases in the past where ARUs have been erected that have been larger than the permissible 40% as outlined in the zoning bylaw. I thank council for their time and I am open to any questions.
All right, thank you for that. Does anyone else from the public wish to speak to this file? Hey, Mark, just give me a shake of the head and I'll acknowledge it verbally here. Is there any correspondence with this application? No public comments for this application, and there is no other business noted for this application, which brings us to the adjournment motion that the zoning bylaw be considered at a future meeting of council, and that pursuant to the Planning Act requirements, the public meeting for zoning application ZBA 2824 is now complete at 8:01 p.m. All in favor, I need a mover and seconder first. How about Deputy Mayor Weisler and Councillor Chilcott? Now, all in favor. That is carried. Thank you. Finally, brings us to the fourth public meeting, which I will call to order at 8:02 p.m. Remind members of any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. This public meeting is called to deal with a proposed zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 2924 Gloin and Grub at 56704 Eden Line. The purpose of this bylaw amendment is to rezone the subject property from Hamlet Residential, HR zone, to a site-specific Hamlet Residential, HR XX zone, to permit the development of an accessory detached garage on the subject property for the storage of a mobile home trailer and personal belongings, which requires relief from the following provisions. Section 9.5.1, to permit a maximum height of 5.3 meters, 17.4 feet, whereas 4.5 meters or 14.8 feet is required. And section 9.7, to permit a maximum floor area of 93.0 square meters or 1,001.0 square feet, whereas 75.0 square meters or 807.3 square feet is required. The subject property is known as 56704 Eden Line, north side and west of Plank Road. The effect of this bylaw is to permit a new accessory building, a detached garage, that exceeds the maximum height and maximum floor area requirements for the storage of a mobile home trailer and personal belongings. At this point, I'll ask for any public participation. Please sign in at the podium.
Good evening, Council and Mr. Mayor. My name is Jesse Froese, and I am the agent representing William Gloin and his wife Lila. I just wanted to clarify this application a little bit, but it seems that it's all there in the application. Really, they just want to build a shop and they want it big enough to fit their RV in. So it's going to be about 1 meter higher than is permitted by the bylaw and 15 meters more of the maximum floor area, because this RV is a fairly long vehicle, and they want to be able to fit it in their garage. Very simple, but I hope that clarifies everything, and I will be here for questions if you have any. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you for that. Does anyone else wish to speak to this application? Again, I assume there is no public correspondence. Mark, can I back up for a minute on the last application? Was that where the Federation plugged in, or is that going to be in your report? Thank you very much. And I note no other business. Brings us to the adjournment motion that the zoning bylaw be considered at a future meeting of council and that pursuant to the Planning Act requirements, the public meeting for zoning application ZBA 2924 is now complete at 8:05 PM. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Emerson will move. Councillor Froese will second. All in favor? That's carried. We're adjourned. Returning now to our regularly scheduled agenda and backing up to section 5. Presentation this evening. Would you like to introduce them, Thomas?
What I will do, Mr. Mayor, is I will advise that we've got two representatives from Honk Mobile to do a presentation on their platform. This is to help inform a report that's coming back to council at the first meeting in 2025 regarding paid parking. That council directed in, I believe, May of 2024. Staff have been working diligently to put information together and collect data to better inform some financial modeling for a potential paid parking solution at the East Beach. And Honk Mobile will be doing a presentation on their solution and their platform that was arranged by our bylaw enforcement officer. Any questions can be directed to Honk Mobile's representatives or to Mark Russell, who is attending tonight for the municipality. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I will pass things over to John and Mia.
Thank you very much. And welcome, John, Mia. Just to remind you, there you go.
There we go. Yeah. Good evening, Mayor and councillors. Thanks for having us into present tonight. Looking forward to sharing some information with you and doing a live demo. And so thanks again for having us. My name is John Chiruko. I'm a senior account executive with Honk. With me, I've got our VP of operations, Mia, to do our demonstration. And we're just going to recap really quickly some of the discussions that we've had, being that, you know, you've got a great beach area that, you know, you're looking to monetize the parking down there and create a great user experience, generate some revenue for the municipality, and make it easy to manage. So a win all across the board there. I'm going to share my screen here real quick and try to get through a presentation in a timely manner so that we can be sure that we've got... oh, it doesn't want to let me share. Something permission related here.
I can do it.
Can you do it, Mia?
Yep. Can you all see my screen? I think I'm sharing.
Yeah, I can see it.
We see it.
Yeah, just let me know when you want to change slides.
Yeah, you got it. Thanks so much. Okay, so we can go ahead here from here, Mia. So just guessing, but you know, Honk has been around for 11 years. We are well known and established across Canada and North America, prolific in Ontario, in fact, having, you know, numerous municipalities, including some that are nearby to you guys, and you know, half at least of the campuses across Canada that trust us with their daily parking, monthly permits, and we've been innovating technology in this space for 11 years. So not a whole lot we haven't run into. Over that time, you know, we've developed our platform to meet a variety of different scenarios, all of which here are applicable to your scenario. Well, some of which, but what we've been talking to your bylaw folks about, we have a solution for. So you can go ahead there, Mia. It's a short list of some of our customers here. You know, in Ontario, of course, some of the other ones are going to be, you know, Oakville and Port Stanley and Central Elgin. And there's just, the list is quite extensive. So just maybe show of hands here if you could, or you can say aye if you've maybe used Honk in the past.
Right.
Was there a couple of you?
I saw a few. Yep.
Okay, excellent. So we pride ourselves on being extremely easy for the users to interact with our platform so that they can be compliant and transact with as few clicks as possible. In fact, without even having to download an app, unlike most of these service providers. And making it extremely easy for our customers, our clients, to manage the platform. So this is essentially what we're looking at on the screen here is a simplified management, smooth user experience, full suite, and a self-serve back office, meaning that you're in control. So you're enabled if to change rates, change rules with just a couple clicks. And we train you, enable your staff on managing the solution. Okay, Mia? They've got this as a record. I think I sent it in, so we can just skip over this. I want to get to the good stuff. All right. So just in terms of like the usability of the platform, just so this is clear, we make it easy. So you can scan a QR code, you can text to pay, you can use the app if you're a frequent user. And you can even do it from home or on any web-enabled device so that it's just easy for people to either do a free transaction if it's a free parking zone, or to make a payment and do it securely and quickly. So we do all different types of transaction types, including events and passes. And if there's fireworks on Canada Day and you guys want to charge a little more for an event, then you can create an event rate. You can make reservations. Most of those things aren't really going to be applicable to what we're going to talk about today. So keeping it focused. And then we give you all the tools in our back office solution there for financial reporting, business intelligence, and analytics, and that self-serve administration that we talked about there. So I think we're on to the fun stuff here next. So if you can, council and attendees, if you're able to, go ahead and scan the QR code that you see in front of you, and we'll do a little interaction here. I'll give you a second to do this, or you can text JD1 to the number there, 75498. And what you're seeing here is just a sample sign, just a generic one, albeit. Normally, when we're working with a municipality or a campus, we'll put your branding elements, your logos on there to make sure that it suits your needs. But what you'll see here is it'll pop up the guest checkout experience, and you can click a free transaction. So here Mia's got it all ready to go, in fact. And you can see the messaging there to enjoy the beach, and you just input your license plate, select a rate. If you want to do that free 15 minutes, you're not going to get charged. It is live, so if you select a paid transaction, it'll cost you. So go for the free 15 minutes, and then you can just check out, and so it's park for free right there. So you've got your confirmation. You can select that an email get sent to you with a receipt, and then from here you can even set up your expiry notifications either via text or a pop-up. So that you can see, hey, my free 15 minutes, I'm dropping the kids off or what have you at the beach. I need to now either vamoose or I need to make a paid transaction by clicking the extend session there. So this is just a demonstration, but essentially, you can set the rates and the rules and your team is fully enabled. So you can see here, we just set up a couple of rates for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and then the daily maximum there being the full day rate.
I wanted to just highlight that when I clicked on the extend button, it didn't allow me to add another 15 minutes free. That's no longer an option after I've selected it once. We sort of institute a rule typically when you do have free rates like that. So just to try to avoid any kind of fraud and abuse or just abuse of the system, that once you've had your free time, that if you're just dropping people off at the beach or whatever you're doing, you then are served paid rates after that for the rest of the day. And then the system resets.
So that's basically as simple and as easy as it is for someone who's going to show up from the nearby areas or a resident, scan the QR code or text or do it from on any web-enabled device, select your time, put in your license plate, you're good to go. So that's basically our, the daily and hourly, like the on-demand transactions that we call it. when we were speaking with Mark, we also talked a little bit about, permitting and having people, be they open to the public if they wanted to select a longer term permit, maybe, for a month or for the season, because the beach time there is, that's when it's busy, of course, and you want to maximize that revenue. So then they can select, a 1 month permit. They can select a 6 month permit. It's essentially the same flow though, where then they are making that payment transaction, and then that vehicle. So sorry, I'll back it up here a little bit there, because a person who owns a permit can swap that between vehicles, so that if they've got, the minivan's going today, well, the pickup truck's going tomorrow, they can swap that over to another vehicle. So think of it like a virtual hang tag that's in your mirror, just without the headaches and hassles of having something hanging from your mirror. So same sort of idea. We can also, you guys are enabled to include promo codes. So if there's a contractor who needs to park down there, or, VIPs from council or whomever that need a discount or free parking, they're enabled to do that. And then that discount is applied at the checkout there, as I think Mia just showed us.
The defining feature of our longer term permits are that they all actually happen in the app. So this is one instance where users would need to register with an email address and phone number to either pay for short-term parking. If they want to pay for daily parking on the app, it's absolutely available to them. But with long-term parking, we do need to know who they are, because we want to allow them, if you want to allow those rules to happen in terms of plate switching, if you want to allow, 2 vehicles on every permit, that they have to switch their plate every time they bring their vehicle to the beach or wherever they're parking. We also want to be able to notify them that their permit is expiring. A couple different features of the app versus the guest checkout experience. Both are available to everyone. For the short-term stuff, long-term stuff is only in the app. You can list as many vehicles as you like in your profile, so that you can just quickly call them up. The most recent one will always come up. You can set a default plate. You can list as many payment methods as you like in the app. So you can have all of your credit cards. We take Google Pay and Apple Pay as well as PayPal, which enables folks who don't have a credit card to pay through their bank account. We are also the only service in Canada, I believe, that takes Interac online on the app as well. And so you can keep as many payment methods as you like. You can manage all of your subscriptions from here. So the difference between the guest checkout experience, very quick, very easy, amazing for tourists, more power users, residents, folks that are going to be coming for long-term permits will typically use the app, because you keep everything sort of safe. It's got a few more bells and whistles. You can keep all of your receipts in one place. You can email them to yourself. If you have expenses to submit, you can export the receipts as a CSV file. Lots of fun stuff that happens back here with one quick registration. You can contact our support from here.
Absolutely.
So that's the public facing long-term permitting solution that we have. It's very flexible. You can make it monthly in terms of a monthly subscription if you'd like, to have it sort of ding someone's credit card, let's say, every month until they cancel, or you can have it as non-recurring. It can be 1 month, it can be 6 months, it can be 12 months. It's totally up to you. It's absolutely configurable from your side on the long-term side.
Absolutely. And these are the public facing here. And we'll get through maybe one more example, public facing, and then maybe we'll show the back office, Mia. So there was at one point we had talked about, residential permits, and this is something that we do in quite a few communities and an ever increasing number here. But there's times when a community wants to give either sell or give free permits to their local residents, so that they're able to go and have approved parking in a certain area. So down at the beach, for example, let's say. So to be able to do that, normally people will come down to the municipal office. They'll have to show proof of residency one way or another, be it like a bill or a driver's license or what have you. And so we've developed a system here where people can do that online. And so what we do is we have an intake form where people complete the intake with their credentials, or name, email, phone number, address, all the stuff here that you see. And what we require them to do is upload a proof of residency document, same as if they are, in person down at the shop there at the office. CME is just getting that here, so you can browse and upload a utility bill or what have you. And then
Your cat. It's totally up to you.
You can you can upload anything. We don't restrict in that regard. What it would do though is it would come to, this is where your team would review the information, make sure it's legitimate, and once approved by you, so this is the only part that the township would do. Then once it's approved, then we would email out to a specific user, and this thereby it's restricted. Their ability to claim their permits, however number you guys allow. And then that home, whether it's a paid or free permit, then they would be able to, do their parking at the beach there, either at a discounted rate and be good for the season or for a month. Obviously that would cut into some of the daily revenues and hourly revenues, but those people, some of the locals, then would have an ability to have a residential permit that's only accessible to the locals. So that was one of the things that we talked about as well there, and I think Mia's just kind of showing us that intake form.
Gonna get back to my Parker list. I was just on the wrong company. Give me 1 second, sorry. We're back. Okay. We're down here. So I just approved myself. This was an example of you saw me fill out the form. The form was immediately received by your team, by the municipality. You can take a look at whatever anybody has submitted over here and click approve or deny. A denial will result in an email that goes back to the user that tells them why they're denied. And approval will, as John said, will dump into the list of Parkers. And you can see here, I have already been invited to claim my permit. And only I, because I have been approved at my email address here, can actually receive the permit and basically either pay for it and register for it. It can be free, it can be paid for, totally up to you. So all of these folks on this list have all been invited. None of them have actually been have claimed their permit yet. So I can walk you through what it looks like on the user side to claim a permit. Basically here you can see I received my email, but join your team on Honk. This was another demo for Loudoun County, but if I happen to have a Honk account, I can go through, I will be logged in. If you don't, it does walk you through a quick sign up process to claim your permit. Once I have clicked on claim my permit, I can select whether or not I want to start my resident permit. That this one happens to be for like 12 months. I can start it today and have it go from December 19th, 2024 through 2025, or I can start January 1st and go through December 31st, 2025. All of these items are configurable on the back office as well. Similar flow in the app. Once you have selected your permit, I'm just going to add my plate number. Again, you guys get to decide how many plates folks want to switch between. Like in Wasaga Beach, it's one permit, one plate. But in the town of municipality of Oro Medonte, they've decided that every household could have up to 3 plates on their permit. Again, I can pick from my list in my email, in my profile of which plate I'm going to register my permit with. We know that the permit, sorry, it's hard to see. The permit is valid from January 1st, 2025 until through the end of the year. I can use a promo code here if I want to. I don't need to though, because this one happens to be free. I'm going to redeem my parking. We do a quick test. Typically, we do know that one of our most popular customer service tickets that comes in is, oops, I made a mistake on my plate. So we just do a quick check here. People have fat thumbs, not a problem. That we do a quick check of, is this really your plate? And now I've got my permit ready to go. This is where I can change my vehicle if I'm allowed to. I have allowed it on here. So let's say I bring my partner's car next week into town or into the beach. I can just go in, and pick from a list. I'm going to register another one of my vehicles. I can register ABC 123. And now I've got ABC 123. Let's register this vehicle. Oh, I've reached the maximum number of vehicles. Not a problem. I will go back. I can't actually change my vehicle here. I'm at me a test. If I needed to, I could contact customer service, change the plates, but we try not to, if you've set a maximum number of plates on your list to switch between as two, we don't really allow you to like delete one and add another one because that sort of leads to a bunch of abuse. We do allow you to create directions from here, from your receipt, so that you can have driving directions to the location, any location that you'd like. Every transaction has a unique receipt number that you can always take a look at. It sits in your honk profile as well. And now I have a resident permit. And now, by a little bit of magic, we can see that Mia plus Bayham at honkmobile.com is now an active resident with an active parking permit, and everyone else has been invited. And my permit is now valid through December 31st, 2025. You guys have the ability to edit this from here. I can change the rate if I need to for a renewal. I can make this renewable where it was non-renewable. I don't want to have necessarily, if you don't want to have residents who have gone through the application process and already been approved, if you don't want to have to force them to reapply, we can make these renewable so that at the end of the year, at the end of their term, they can just renew it if at their leisure and not have to go through the entire renewal process again. That's about it on the resident permit side. Do you want me to go to the back office?
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Just being respectful of time here, I'll recap Mia, but if you want to get into back office, just show them kind of how easy it is to kind of create rates and that type of stuff, both for, and then we can, if we need to, we can come back for a longer demonstration and all that type of stuff. But what we've basically demonstrated so far is, how to transact for short-term on-demand parking, be they hourly or daily, long-term permits, and then specific resident-only permits in these different use cases. And so, in your situation here, these seem like the applications that are going to make a reliable revenue stream and a great experience for users. And so, and now on the back office, what Mia is about to show us here is on the administration side. So what your team would be doing to easily create rates and rules. And so I'll hand it back over.
Yeah, the back office is basically the hub of, it's the lifeblood of our entire system, where our operators tend to spend most of their time. It is segmentable by role, so not everything needs to be accessible by everyone. So you may want to elect a single person or a team of folks who are in charge of parking or enforcement to be able to access and change zones and rates at any one time, but you don't necessarily want your finance folks to have their hands in changing those rates, but you do want to allow them to see every individual transaction and access the statements and be able to reconcile any payments that come through. That's what happens in here. We have a very robust reporting dashboard here that shows you exactly what's happening at any hour of the day. There's a daily snapshot as well as, which nothing's happened here today, but as well as custom reports that look at usage over time. So we can go all the way to like this quarter, last year, and take a look and see who's come in, who's made purchases, what kind of purchases were made. We assume that you also want to know how people are getting to you and how people are purchasing. So we want to know who has purchased on-demand parking, who has purchased a subscription, who's purchased a flex pass, which is actually a really interesting one for some residents, that it's like a virtual scratch card. You can pay for 10 parking passes at a time or 20 to be used within the year or within a month, and then every time you park you go and redeem one pass. It's a really interesting product for municipalities or for long-term parking, and to see who paid with, we call it tap, who paid through the QR code versus who paid on the app. We can shut any of these down to take a look at individually, like a single zone or multiple zones over the year, over the month. Lots of different reporting, taking a look at any rates that you might have instituted and how popular they are, to be able to set the correct rates going forward. Again, back here, management is where you can play with and adjust your rates. You can add messages to folks along the way. You can create your own promo codes. Say the mayor gets free parking. I'm not suggesting that he does, but if he does, you're more than welcome. Let's say you have a downtown, a Christmas shopping extravaganza that everybody gets $2 off their parking. This is where you would create a promo code to allow you to give out $2 off their parking anytime, anywhere. You can also set it as a percentage discount. You can set the promo code, you can set the dollar discount, a percentage discount, or, for contractors that are coming to town that have fleets that are going to be parking, they can purchase promo codes from you and distribute them to their staff at their leisure so that they've de facto purchased parking on behalf of their staff. You can set an expiry date. You can limit it to a certain zone just at the beach, or if you wanted to expand it to on-street parking, you're more than welcome to do that. You can have it include a convenience fee or not on the promo code. You can take a look here at your permits and the number of permits that you've sold in terms of long-term permits, who has purchased them. You've got everyone's email address here, so that if you do need to contact them, the information's all here and downloadable as a CSV file. You can create your flex passes and lots of fun stuff. So this is really, this system has been built very carefully and with a ton of consideration, and it's been built with the feedback and from the feedback of all of our hundreds and hundreds of clients that we've been working with for the past 11 years. So we try not to build anything in a vacuum. We tend to use and tweak stuff along the way with your feedback. So we want to be your technology partner. We don't want to manage your parking for you. And we don't want to have you waiting for us to perform certain activities. So we basically given the reins to you to manage your parking from here. One quick mention about how plates get into the system and how enforcement will use this. If you have a third-party enforcement tool, we can always integrate the purchase information, all these purchases that we've made before. The plate information, whether it be a long-term permit or a daily permit at the beach, will integrate into whatever system you're using, or you're more than welcome to use our enforcement system, which is web-based. It's on a phone, it's free, it comes with the whole system that your enforcement officers basically walk around and can either scan or take a look at the license plates that are in the parking lot. They can filter by license plate here. So let's say they see license plate that starts with BP that they have no idea if there's a permit there or not. They just start typing in BP, and anything that starts with BP will come up and show the start time and end time of the session. And they have the ability to know or to decide whether or not that car should get an infraction because this is actually recently expired, which is why it's coming up in red, or those that show up in black. This happens to be a daytime parking lot in Kingston. The plates in black are actually currently valid, so they keep walking and move on to the next car. It's as simple as that. And this is all real-time information. That's the potato.
I think for me, Mia, that was what we wanted to cover here for today. The carrot being making it easy and simple for drivers to purchase short-term or long-term parking permits and passes, and for the municipality to administrate, and then having a means to look up and determine, this enforcement piece, that's the stick, whether or not this vehicle is compliant, or subject to enforcement. And I'll just add, I think that's coming to the end of our presentation here, but in some of the mock-up scenarios that I've done with Mark in enforcement there, there's a pretty significant revenue opportunity for the municipality, being that they've got such a great beach at Port Burwell there, and can make it a great revenue stream, and also make it a great experience for both residents and visitors, so that it's a win-win-win all across the board there. So I think with that, we can turn it over to any questions that may be in the room.
All right, thank you, John and Mia, for that presentation. It was very interesting. Any questions from anyone at this time? Councilor Emerson.
Hey, through you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I was in Portborough the other day. I barely had data and not three. I was wondering what the minimum network thing was, if it was 3G or 4G or 5G, because I didn't have 3G. I couldn't even upload through my cell phone Facebook profile or anything.
Well, I believe the other day, nothing was working in the south end, but anyway, I would assume that is something that had to be addressed in order to put this kind of a system in.
It is at best spotty there though on days and everything.
Agreed. That's why I'm suggesting that if we were going to go this route, that there'd have to be some kind of Wi-Fi upgrade or something to take place down there. Would that be a fairly accurate statement? I'm looking to staff.
Yeah, I'll just jump in on that one. So there is some infrastructure down there right now. We would likely have to look at an upgrade, but that will be forthcoming in the report that Mark will be bringing forward on the 16th of January. It'll talk to some of the technology requirements and that sort of thing.
But yep, just to acknowledge that, yeah, we're aware of it. Thank you, Councillor Emerson. It's not good. Any other questions for our presenters this evening? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I guess just along the same lines, through the program itself, in the event of there being an issue with internet, is there any other mechanisms in which to register?
Probably not.
Well, even data. Are you switching from data to internet or Wi-Fi, or this is the question, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you can connect to the internet, you can use our system. Typically, if there's a major outage, then people probably wouldn't pay, or there are some folks that end up considering putting in a pay station. I wouldn't suggest it for for the number of people that will end up using it. I think it's a pretty high cost, but yeah, our system is based on the internet.
So whether it's you know, a public Wi-Fi, so if that's the route the municipality is going to go down and put like a booster down in that area there, or whether they're on one of the carriers, you know, on their cellular network, either or is just fine. If someone knows they're going to come down to the beach, they can do it from home as well and just make their transaction from home on any, you know, internet connected laptop, desktop, what have you. So, you know, that I guess theoretically, you know, we could put a sign up at the top of the hill so that people could, you know, pay for parking before they come down into the beach area there as well. Just kind of thinking on the spot here, but lots of the point being, yeah, there needs to be some kind of internet connection so that people can make that transaction. And I will say, last point, on the guest checkout experience, it is a tiny data transaction. Like, it's a very small. So it's not uploading or downloading anything. It is a very simple web page, and so requires very little data.
We also had an experience at Burlington Beach for the first 2 years when they introduced, we've been in the city of Burlington for quite a while, but just after COVID, they added honk only. So they didn't have any physical pay stations at the beach. They actually had a couple of ambassadors walking around with cellular enabled iPads. So folks who either didn't have a phone or didn't feel comfortable scanning a QR code, they could actually register on these iPads with the ambassadors, which was really interesting. And it was actually a really great experience for a lot of people. Elderly folks, they help them register. We have a public facing sort of site that one can put onto an iPad or a kiosk or something like that, that clears itself after 20 seconds after the transactions happen. So obviously you can't enable Apple Pay or Google Pay because it's a public facing device, but users can manually enter their credit card, make their payment, take a snapshot or something like that, or have it email them a receipt if they need it, and then the system clears itself for the next person.
Well, that's a fascinating option. That's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, it was great.
Councillor Froese.
Can't imagine what that would cost, right? To have people walking around, pay them down there.
True. They're busy.
Actually, what I was thinking of was you've got a contractor on the beach now. We slip them an iPad to assist those who don't have the ability to queue in their own. Just an option, just something that was in the back of my mind for the future. But anyway, any more questions for, I'm with Councilor Froze. I'm not into hiring an ambassador to go down there and walk, the parking lot. Any questions, more for our presenters? Mark, you have something?
Just through your worship, one thing that I have seen through enforcement, when cell phone reception is down, often what will happen too as well, the officers might take a temporary break from enforcement too as well. So that's something that the officers, if we're aware that the whole network is down in the area, so officers might go to a different area of the town to do enforcement.
All right.
That's something that is a common issue along beach municipalities. So.
And obviously, some rough spots to work out here, but still the concept is interesting.
Yeah, and these types of issues happen too as well to pay machines too as well. Pay machine will be down for the day, so the officer might take a break for enforcement for the day and just kind of not be scarce for the day. So that way they're not issuing out tickets when people aren't physically able to purchase them.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. Again, last call for questions from council members. Okay, John, Mia, thank you very much for the presentation. I found it very interesting and enlightening. So, thank you. And
Thanks very
Merry
much.
Christmas to you.
Yep. Thanks for the opportunity.
Take care.
Bye for now.
All right, council, how about a 5-minute break? Well, we'll do the motion and then we'll move on. And motion that reads that the presentation from John Chewayko and Mia Brown regarding honk presentation and demo be received for information. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Chilcott, Deputy Mayor Weiser, all in favor? That's carried. How about a 5-minute break? We're recessed. Ready? Welcome back. We left off at section 12, Development Services, Sustainability and Conservation, 12.1 Correspondence, 12.1.1 to receive for information. There are 5 notices, public meetings. If you wish to, I'll read them out. Otherwise, anyone have any questions? Seeing none, then I need a mover and seconder for the following, that items 12.1.1A through E be received for information. Councillor Emerson will move. Councillor Chilcott will second. All in favor? That is carried. 12.2 reports to council. We have report DR 1424 by Steve Adams, Manager of Public Works, Drainage Superintendent, regarding the tender award, the North Street Municipal Drain. Good evening again, Steve.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, the report before you is to award the tender for the North Street Municipal Drain. Pretty straightforward. This tender went out from our municipal drainage engineer Spreets. They issued the tender, pretty successful. We ended up with 4 bids for this drain. The drain, if you remember, it's about 700 meters of drain. It starts at Plank Road, or I guess the outlet would be Plank Road and North Street, moves up North Street, and before it turns into the banks, into the field, and carries on for another few hundred meters. This was all in relation to requirement of an outlet for some severances of some lots off of North Street and off of Chapel Street with 2 landowners. So we received the 4 bids on December 10th, and the lowest bid was Froze Excavating. It came in at $132,944.50, excluding HST. And the engineer's cost was $168,630. So it was well under the engineer's cost, which was good. It keeps us away from Section 59, which we'd have to come back and look for amendments to the plan and to the schedule. So if you recall, the 2 landowners that were involved in this petition, they will be the sole cost of the construction for this drain. So future maintenance will be shared amongst all the landowners, including the roads as well with the municipality and a little bit of the county. However, at this point, this drain will be installed relatively soon, possibly in the next 10 hours. It's going to get started. They want to get going right on it right away, which is going to get these landowners really happy to get this done. And if there's any questions about it, I'm happy to help.
All right, thank you very much for that report, Steve. Does anyone have any questions? Fairly straightforward. Good news story about a $36,000 savings from the estimate. Okay. Seeing no questions, then the motion reads report DR 1424 regarding the North Street Drain Award contract be received for information. And that council, the corporation municipality of Bayham accept the tender for North Street Drain is submitted by Froze Excavating Limited in the amount of $132,944.50 plus HST, with work to commence on or before January 31st, 2025. And be completed on February the 28th, 2025. And that a bylaw to authorize the execution of the contract documents with Froze Excavating be presented to council for enactment. Clarification, did I hear you say they wanted to start this in the next 10 hours
So
or 10
originally
days?
when I originally wrote the report, it was probably going to be after Christmas. However, the contractor doing the work
Wants to go.
has another project came out. Pipe's been delivered, locates are done, all paperwork's done. This is the final step. So he's ready to go. And he said up till tomorrow.
I don't think we need to amend it. It's still going to be within.
Right. It's still within the
on or
timeline.
before. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Wonderful. Good news. Do I have a mover and seconder for that? That's Deputy Mayor Weiser. Councillor Chilcott's going to second. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Item B, report DS 8824 by Mark Underhill, Planning Coordinator, Deputy Clerk, regarding consent application E225. We're already on 2025, are we? At 18305 567 Ontario Inc. at 55942 Maple Grove Line. Mark, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The report before you is for consent application E225. Received from the Elgin County Land Division Committee, submitted by appointed agent Jesse Froese on behalf of the owners of 1830567 Ontario Inc. The property is located on Maple Grove Line. The subject property is agricultural, designated in the OP and agricultural zoned. The application is going before the Land Division Committee on the 22nd of January. The planner's memorandum dated December the 11th analyzes the application subject to the provincial planning statement, the Elgin County OP, Municipality of Bayham OP, and our zoning bylaw. The standard conditions would include the digital copy of the survey, our planning report fee, civic number signage for the retained lands. Rezoning is also required for both the severed and retained parcels to meet the surplus farm dwelling criteria and address reduced lot frontage on the severed lot and deficient lot area of the retained lot. The owner also needs to remove the portion of the existing greenhouse on the proposed retained lot that's encroaching on the proposed severed portion. Staff and planner recommend support of the consent application for the severance of a surplus farm dwelling, meeting the criteria of 2.1.7.1 farm consolidation and surplus farm dwellings in the OP. And I leave it with you, Your Worship, for discussion.
Well, thank you very much for that report, Mark. When you look at the map, it's kind of hard to determine, but I assume the entire parcel is to be severed?
No.
Okay, it's just the southern portion? And the encroachment is the greenhouse complex that I'm seeing outlined here?
Let me get my map in front of me here.
Yeah, it's page 51 of 156.
The actual severed parcel has a very long, narrow laneway
Correct.
that goes back to the existing dwelling.
I'm very familiar with the
Okay.
parcel.
That's the parcel to be severed.
Correct. Okay.
And the
just house-
retained is the kind of odd shaped surrounding lands
Yes.
around it. Yes.
All right.
You mean parcel B?
Parcel
Parcel A
is the retained.
Is retained.
Parcel B is
Is
the
this-
the severed,
Is
to be
this- oh,
severed.
Okay, I did understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you for that clarification.
Mhm.
Any questions from any member of council? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion that reads that report DS 8824 regarding consent application E225 1830567 Ontario Inc. be received, and that council recommends to the Elgin County Land Division Committee that consent application E225 be granted, subject to the following conditions and considerations. One, that the owner obtains approval of a zoning bylaw amendment for the proposed severed lot from an agricultural A1 zone to a site-specific rural residential zone to permit a minimum lot frontage of 13.4 meters. Two, that the owner obtains approval of a zoning bylaw amendment for the proposed retained lot from an agricultural A1 zone to a site-specific special agricultural A2 zone to prohibit new dwellings and to recognize the deficient minimum lot acres of 9.3 hectares. Three, that the owner removes the portion of the existing greenhouse on the proposed retained lot encroaching on the proposed severed lot in accordance with the provisions of the zoning bylaw. Four, that the owner provides a planning report fee payable to the municipality of Bayham upon the granting of the consent by the Elgin County Land Division Committee. Five, that the owner provides a digital copy of a survey of the subject lands. Six, that the owner apply to and pay all fees to the municipality with respect to civic addressing signage for the retained lot where necessary. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Emerson, Councillor Chilcott will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Item C. Report DS 8924 by Margaret Hunter, Planning Coordinator, Deputy Clerk, regarding consent application E325 Harms 20 Elm Street. Mark, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to council. The report before you for consent application E325, received from the Land Division Committee, submitted by Agent Gerard and Sarah Harms, proposing to sever a lot from subject lands located at 20 Elm Street, Village of Vienna. The lands are designated residential and they are zoned Village Residential 1, R1 in our zoning bylaw. The application proposes to sever and create a new lot with a frontage of 18.9 meters and lot depth of 43.1 meters, while the retained lands accommodate an existing two-story single detached dwelling as per the submitted sketch. The application goes before the Land Division Committee on January 2nd. The planner's memorandum dated December 11, 2024 analyzes the application subject to the Municipality of Bayham OP and our zoning bylaw. Standard conditions would include an engineered stamped stormwater management plan with a drainage grading plan as there are existing drainage concerns with a new dwelling on Edison Street. Civic numbering signage for the severed lot, digital survey, cash in lieu payment, road entrance permit, and our planning report fee. Other conditions apply regarding the removal of the concrete pad on the proposed severed lot, and that water and sanitary service be installed to the severed lot, and to provide confirmation that of the location of the existing municipal water and sanitary service connections to ensure they are contained on the retained lot and otherwise not crossing any lot lines. Otherwise, the owner will have to apply to relocate services or install new on the retained lot. Staff and planner recommend the support of the consent application for the creation of one residential lot fronting on Elm Street, the Village of Vienna, with the recommended conditions before you. And I leave it with you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much for that report. Any questions? Mark, I must have missed it within your report. You've given the dimensions of the severed lot. Does it meet the minimum standards for a village residential?
Yes, there's not a rezoning required for that.
Thank you for that. Okay. Seeing nothing further from members of council, we have a motion that reads that report DS 8924 regarding the consent application E225 harms be received. And that council recommend to the Elgin County Land Division Committee that consent application E225 be granted subject to the following conditions and considerations. Just checking this. 1, that the owner removes the concrete pad on the proposed severed lot. 2, that the owner obtains a permit from the municipality of Bayham for the installation of a new municipal water and sanitary service connection to the proposed severed lot. 3, that the owner provides confirmation with respect to the location of the existing municipal water and sanitary service connection to the residential lot. Should the existing municipal servicing laterals cross the proposed property lines or do not have sufficient clearance, the owner shall obtain a permit from the municipality of Bayham for the installation of a new municipal water and sanitary service connection to the retained lot. 4, that the owner obtains approval from the municipality of Bayham for road entrance permit, that's Elm Street, for the new access to the proposed severed lot. 5, that the owner provides an engineered grading, drainage, and stormwater management plan for each parcel to demonstrate the lands will drain properly with no negative impacts on the neighboring lands or the street, and showing a proposed building envelope to all to the satisfaction of the municipality of Bayham. 6, that the owner pays fees as required in municipal bylaw number 2020-053 cash in lieu of parkland. 7, that the owner provides a digital copy of the survey of the subject lands. 8, that the owner applies and pays all fees to the municipality with respect to civic addressing signage for the severed lot. 9, that the owner provides a planning report fee payable to the municipality of Bayham upon the granting of the consent by the Elgin County Land Division Committee. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Chilcott will move. Councillor Emerson will second. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Brings us item D, report DS 9024 by Margaret Underhill, Planning Coordinator, Deputy Clerk, regarding consent application E525 Hebert at 9215 and 9217 Albert Street. Mark, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to council. The consent application E525 received from Land Division Committee submitted by appointed agent Aggie Hebert on behalf of the ownership of 9215 and 9217 Allward Street, which happens to be a semi-detached dwelling sharing a common wall, and they are looking to divide into two distinct lots. Each will contain one unit of the semi-detached dwelling. Subject property is residential, designated in the OP and Village Residential 1 R1 in our zoning bylaw. The application will go before the Land Division Committee on January 22nd, sorry. The planner's memorandum dated December 11th analyzes the application subject to the Municipality of Bayham official plan and zoning bylaw. Standard conditions include digital survey, cash in lieu payment for the creation of a lot, and the planning report fee. Other conditions apply, including a minor variance application for the proposed severed lot, permit a minimum lot area of 680 square meters, and the installation of a second sanitary service connection, and to ensure that the existing service line does not cross the proposed lot line. Also to include installation of a second private well with water quantity and quality testing reports for bacteria and nitrates, and a deposit for drain reassessment for the Allward drain. Staff and municipal planner recommend the support of the consent application to separate the semi-detached dwelling in the village of Stratfordville with the recommended conditions before you. And I leave it with you, Your Worship, for consideration.
Thank you for that report, Mark. Does anyone have any questions on report DS 90? That would be a milestone, but it's not. She's not done yet. Okay. Okay, thank you for that, Mark. We have a proposed motion that reads that report DS 9024 regarding consent application E525 harms be received, and that council recommend to the Elgin County Land Division Committee that consent application E525 be granted subject to the following conditions and considerations. One, that the owner obtains approval of a minor variance application for the proposed severed lot to permit a minimum lot area of 680 square meters. Number two, that the owner obtains a permit from the municipality of Bayham for the installation of municipal sanitary service connections to each of the proposed lots. Should the existing municipal sanitary lateral cross the proposed property lines or does not have sufficient clearance, the owner shall obtain a permit from the municipality of Bayham for the installation of a new municipal sanitary service connection. Three, that the owner obtains approval from the municipality of Bayham for the installation of a private well on each of the proposed lots, providing the municipality with water quantity and water quality reports for bacteria and nitrates content, meeting the provincial standards for residential use as a matter of public health and safety. Four, that the owner initiate and assume, if required, all engineering costs associated with the preparation of a revised assessment schedule in accordance with the Drainage Act, RSO 1990, as amended, with a deposit to be paid in full to the municipality prior to the condition being deemed fulfilled. If the deposit does not cover the cost of the revised assessment schedule, the owner will be billed for any additional costs incurred. Five, that the owner pay fees as required in municipal bylaw number 2020-053, cash in lieu of parkland. Six, that the owner provides a digital copy of a survey of the subject lands. Seven, that the owner provides a planning report fee payable to the municipality of Bayham for the granting of the consent by the Elgin County Land Division Committee. Mover and seconder, please. I see Deputy Mayor Weisler, Councillor Froese. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item E, report DS 9124 by Marg Underhill, Planning Coordinator, regarding residential maximum building height regulations. Marg, you're just gonna have to, you've got 3 days or something left. You can get up to 100 by then, right?
Yeah. Under pressure.
Your Worship, this is my last report of 2024.
Well, congratulations. It's been a busy year.
It's been an extremely busy year.
There we go.
Next year, I hope there's not 91 reports, but time will tell.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. So before you, we are considering a report regarding residential maximum building height regulations. On September the 5th, council passed a resolution regarding housekeeping amendments related to Bill 23. And during the same meeting, there was discussion also. During the discussion, we also passed the following motion that from Councillor Emerson and seconded by Councillor Froese, that there be staff direction to report to council with further information on the necessity to maintain a 7-meter maximum building height and any additional explanation to substantiate the established height and any opportunity to amend the zoning provision. So since that time, staff have met internally with Arcadis to discuss the viability and rationale for maximum building heights as they are, as well as the constraints to changes to section 10.5 and 11.6 to increase maximum building heights to be consistent with section 9.5, which is Hamlet residential, in our zoning bylaw. For discussion purposes, I included the definition of height as per our zoning bylaw. For ease of comparison, I also included a table showing the Hamlet residential compared to the R1 and R2 village residential zones. I also included the permitted residential types for each of section 9, section 10, and section 11, just for information that you would have before you. To note, the addition of sections 10.5 and 11.6 maximum building height was approved by zoning bylaw number Z751 2022, passed in September of 2022. At that time, council considered that the maximum building height regulations in the higher density urban residential areas better aligned new development with the local emergency response capabilities to protect public health and safety, explaining that the fire truck fleet could only reach to a 7.0 meter 23 feet height with the ladder apparatus available to them. From the land use planning perspective, the consideration was to reduce the height in the higher dense urban areas, given the typically smaller lot size with the closer proximity of the dwellings with one another. Also, public health and safety considerations and the ability to access a rooftop given the available emergency equipment. Presently, the local emergency services has access to 2 7.3 meter ladders and 1 10.3 meter ladder on a tanker. Emergency services are still challenged by not having the equipment to access a height of much more than 7 meters. It's also included, I've shown a table of the minor variance applications pertaining to maximum height regulation variances. In 2024, there was an increase to the number of building permit applications for larger 2-story dwellings that, due to their design, exceeded the 7-meter height restriction, resulting in an increase in the number of minor variance applications requesting relief from the maximum height regulation. I want to add in just here before I go to conclusion, there was a correspondence that council considered received from Suzanne Schlotzhauer. It was received August the 15th, 2024, and it was previously included as an attachment to staff report DS 6724. Also to note, correspondence was recently received from Barry Wade on December the 17th after the agenda was posted, and this correspondence was circulated to council and staff the same day for information purposes and consideration with this report. So in conclusion, council may choose to maintain the existing maximum height restrictions, and the Committee of Adjustment will continue to consider site-specific minor variance applications for maximum building height. Alternatively, should council wish to consider increasing section 10.5 and section 11.6 maximum building height regulations to 10.5 meters to align the 3 residential zones, council may direct staff to pursue a specific municipal-led amendment to section 10.5 and section 11.6. If council chooses this latter approach, staff will continue to engage in internal discussions regarding fire protection in BAM and applicable equipment or building strategies necessary to service taller structures. One fire protection solution may be to require residential sprinkler systems in all new dwellings over 7 meters in height to ensure adequate suppression is in place on site. Failing this, any approved dwelling over 7.0 meters may require mutual aid and aerial support to help extinguish a fire. I will leave that with you, Your Worship, for council's discussion.
Well, thank you for that, Marg. And at that, we will open it up for discussion. Any thoughts? Just point of clarification. You did a very good job of pointing out the reasons why the various height restrictions in a higher density zone. And I understand that. So it's up to council to decide whether you wish to maintain that argument or wish to raise the building heights, knowing that there may be some other building requirements incorporated in. That's what she's suggesting. Yep. Councilor Emerson.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. That's actually a good report, and the explanations appreciated. I think we forget to reflect a little bit in minor aesthetics and designs of two-story houses, because we're basically, most of those 5 that seek relief were only 1 foot or 1.5 feet higher than the limit. And I'm not suggesting that we should go to 10.5, although maybe we should continue to explore going up and standardizing that thing. But at this moment, I think we really should add 0.5 meter or 1 meter to the maximum height to allow for modern design.
All right, that's an interesting discussion point. I'm going to look to staff for just some clarification. Even if we decide to go from 7.5 to 8 meters, is this something that staff should come back to us and suggest from a fire suppression or emergency services point of view? Does it have a big impact or a significant impact? I don't know.
In absence of the fire chief being here, Your Worship, I would say that discussion will have to take place, of course.
Sure.
So whatever council is recommending that they want to look at for us to bring back, yes, we will have to have that discussion with our fire chief and go from there.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Chilcott.
Thank you.
And then I'll come to Councillor Froze.
Thank you. People are building houses knowing what our criteria is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're going over it. So, yeah, the design needs to be brought into spec with what our requirements are. Or if we're going to go up to 8 meters or whatever Councillor Emerson had mentioned, we need larger fire equipment or the suppression, as she said. So I don't think that we can approve going higher until we have that type of information or equipment in-house. We need.
Well, I think exactly what you're trying to suggest is, no, we can't make that decision until we have the full gamut of information in front of us.
Correct. From what I understand, we can't reach the higher heights.
Well, that's what we're
Right, so-
understanding, the reason why we went to the restrictive heights. Yeah. But I think what Councillor Emerson was getting at and what you're suggesting and confirming with staff, they'll have to bring that information back
Right.
to us. And I think that's prudent if that's what council wants to do.
So there'll be costs involved if we get a longer ladder or whatever, that type of thing,
Possibly.
right? So.
Possibly. Yeah. Councillor Froze.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Being a farmer, building up is definitely better for the long-term survival of humanity. We're kind of running out of land at 350 acres a day in Ontario. But totally agree with the conversation at hand. Do we need to make some changes, slight changes, perhaps? But maybe in the meantime, since we're approving these applications anyway, maybe just a way of streamlining them and not charging the fees might be a hand up. Like Councillor Emerson said, it's only by 1 foot or 2, and to not set back construction on some of these projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. No, I'm going to say it right up front now. I wouldn't be supportive of not having a fee and structure for that place. The minor variance does provide an avenue right in the moment for someone wishing to build up over and above what the current restrictions are. And it still requires staff time to process that particular application. The fee is meant to recover that cost, that's all. Having said that, I'm not against exploring the alternatives and understanding the consequences of changing council policy. Councilor Emerson?
Well, I guess we have a lot of applications and everything coming forward, and if we're going to approve them and we're going to actually, maybe the money's not the biggest deal, but time delays on these zoning variances and whatnot, and our time, because we spend a lot of time and Margaret's time preparing these reports that we're going to approve most likely anyway. So at being expedient and efficient, it would be kind of prudent to recognize that extra foot that people want in their ceilings, or for whatever reason, the house is a foot higher. It's just not really an efficient process that we have right now.
I understand that. But again, the 7.5 meter was something that council approved based on the information of the day. There's a balancing of the suppression capabilities of the fire services and emergency services. So we need to, I think council needs to understand, if you want to go up and allow that to expand, what are the needs to provide comfort level with the emergency services to provide, you know, that response in a higher density area. That's all. Is that fair?
Well, I mean, it actually is fair, but I mean, it's a simple question to the fire chief. Do you think another half a meter is still within your wheelhouse? I mean, it's not a complicated opinion or anything. That's a request.
Understood.
Right?
You and I aren't on that 30-foot ladder.
No.
Well, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark, please.
Through you to council. The other point to that also is the design of the roof. The applications that we've had before, fire chief hasn't shown a concern because there's been a design of the roof where there is partial lower and a higher roof elevation. So
right.
you've got roof designs that can be staggered.
Yeah.
So if you can get to one, then you can operate and get to where you need to be. It's the 2-story full up, steep
High-pitched.
peaked, high pitched roofing that causes the issue. But if you've got a varying degree of roof levels,
We
there
just
may
need
not
a
be
front
such a
porch on every
concern.
house.
So it really
Yeah.
does come to the design of the house that becomes a worry for the emergency services, whether they can access or not. But height is definitely part of that. So the 7 meters, it may be a lower roof design and then there's a higher portion to the house. Okay, long as they can access part of it, and that works. But it's these designs where they're looking for 10-foot ceilings interior, and it adds to your height. And then there's a steep peaked roof that becomes a problem. So I'm just throwing that out there too. So it's not a hard and fast, you've got to look, and that's what the fire chief has done. He's looked at the house designs to see whether there's accessibility or not. So I'll leave that with you.
Thank you for that comment. Councilor Froze.
Yes, I get that, and that is a very valid point, Margaret. And your report was very well done. And I also get the fact that we don't want eyesores popping up in the middle of a beautiful subdivision. I 100% get that. So just a clarification question though, Margaret. So should a commercial apartment building pop up and go 5 stories, all they need to do is put in a fire suppression system? Is that what I'm hearing?
Depends on the design, I would think, but Mark, please.
Through your worship to council and Councillor Froze. Yes, it all comes down to design, of course. Highly recommended from our fire chief is sprinkler systems.
Yeah.
So whether it's in a commercial building, that becomes a building code, whether it's required or not, or it becomes a desire of the building owner to put it in themselves. But in my report, I also mentioned that, if residences were self-sprinklered, then the fire chief would not have a problem with the height go as high as, the 10.5, not a problem if it's sprinklered.
Interesting.
But
Mhm.
a lot, I don't know, I can't go into what the cost of a residential sprinkler system would be. We don't know that. But again, the fire chief did say that if those were put in, the height would not be so much of an issue. So.
Not predicating or tying council to anything right at the moment, but Mark, if, is there a way that within your zoning, there isn't a way to tie in a requirement for building height or, the compliance of building height with sprinklers? That's a building design issue.
Through the worship to council, I can't really speak to that, how that would
Right.
work to make it mandatory. I would certainly want to explore that option. If there's something that could be put in, perhaps through a covenant, even in a plan of subdivision or something. I don't have enough information on that particular issue, but it's an interesting point to pursue if there was something that we could do to do that.
Is council interested in having a report come back and tries to explore all different options?
If you want to go to the full height, then
Yeah.
yeah, because then you're talking about 3-story buildings potentially but also in the zoning could read at least part of the roof at some point is 7 meters. And then you would, because if the issue is just access to the roof someplace, you can say, hey, well, you can make it 8 meters, but you better have part of the roof that's 7 meters. Right? And then everybody's covered, right? That's basically all you got to do is say, hey, put a deck with a roof on the back and Bob's your uncle. Right?
Well, okay, Mark, is that something that you think staff could do, is bring us back some kind of it's like an omnibus type of exploration here. We're trying to find a compromise here that I think meets safety as well as building design. And perhaps it's a case that we just haven't got the full information to make this for tonight. Does that work? Do you think? Counselor Chilcott, sorry, I was looking for a nod
That's okay.
before I got.
I
Yeah.
was just wondering, can you do a 2-step bylaw where if it's 7 feet and under,
Well,
or 7 feet and over, or
Yeah.
whatever, 7 meters and over, then it has to have a fire suppression, and if it's under, it doesn't.
well, I think that's some of the recommendations we'd be looking
But can
back.
you do
from
the
staff.
two, or do you have to have one?
Well, through your worship to council, that would be something we would have to explore.
I wasn't sure if you had to have one only.
But at that point, excuse me, through you, Mr. Mayor, but at that point, then maybe it's just cheaper to go through the zoning thing than put
Right.
the sprinklers in. Because if it's like 5,000 for sprinklers, but
Yeah.
it's 24 and we're gonna
The
approve
minor
it,
variance, yeah.
right?
That's
So
the point.
all I'm trying to do is streamline this thing so that we don't have to deal with these things. That's all.
I understand that.
Right.
I understand it. I just don't want to see council make a decision here that's going to expose the municipality to further, unexpected costs or something here. That's
Yeah,
all.
or liabilities. 'Cause
Well,
we kinda-
liability is a good
But
word
we,
too, but
we kind of are staying in this report because the Hamlet one 10.5 is all right, but we only got one ladder.
well, that's less density, but I mean, when you got them closer together, then
Fire
yeah,
spread.
fire suppression.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Can I get consensus from council to have staff come back and with a little more detail in a future meeting? Councilor Froze?
I'm giving consensus.
Okay, thank you for that. I get that. I like that. So we're getting the nod here. Is that okay, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just Mark, the minor variance applications that we've received this year, the 5, none of them were over 8 meters, right?
No.
Through your worship to council, I believe there was one that was 8.2.
Was it 8? Okay.
Again,
But the majority of
I'm
them
try
were,
and trust my memory,
Yeah,
but
okay.
it wasn't far over 8 meters. So 8.2, 8.3.
Okay.
So generally it was a meter and a bit
Hmm.
that they needed a variance for. and then anywhere in between. So between the 7 and the 8 were the 5 applications. And I think there, like I say, the one was maybe 8.2 or 8.3.
Right.
Yeah.
Clerk, we got something sniffed out.
Yes, your worship, let me know if this works. That report DS 9124 regarding residential maximum building height regulations be received for information, and that staff be directed to report back to council with options of how to increase the maximum building height in residential zones while maintaining emergency services.
I think that covers it. What we want to know is the options and the consequences of adopting the options. And I think that covers it. Does that work for council? And if so, I'll take a mover and seconder for that. I seen Councillor Froze put his hand up. Suited. Councillor Chilcott, seconded. Okay, thank you. Good discussion tonight. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Marg. And congratulations on a momentous year.
Yes, 91.
Yep, 91. Shall we have 92 next year?
No.
That's why we gotta fix this thing.
Right?
We'd be down 5 reports, right?
Well, yeah, it could be down 5. Yes. 5 less. All right, thank you. Section 13, finance and min, 13.1 correspondence, 13.11 to receive for information. 5 pieces of correspondence. Item A, Town of Bradford, West Gwillimbury regarding the Ontario Deposit Return Program. B, Municipality of St. Charles regarding the Ontario Deposit Return Program. C, Emergency Management in Ontario regarding Ontario's public education strategy for emergency management. D, Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing regarding the proposed Municipal Accountability Act 2024. Item E, Joint Board of Management regarding September 4th, 2024 meeting minutes. Does anyone have any piece of correspondence they wish to address, draw attention to? Councillor Emerson.
We should support the plastic bottle return program because actually effectively what large companies did was download their waste onto us through the Blue Box program. In the old days, it was returnable pop bottles. And
Yeah.
if they were directly the major liquid drink providers, then they would clean up and we would have less plastics in the environment. I think it's not much to support that initiative.
I understand it. It's
Considering
Yep.
only 9% of plastic is actually that we recycle is actually recycled.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it? That's high. I think it's less than that.
Well, it was when I was at a meeting in California, it was 5% of plastics in the US were actually recycled through a program. And I don't think it's over 10 here.
Probably not. Probably not. It's a if you want to change human behavior, you got to affect them in the pocketbook. So the idea is if there's a deposit return on that plastic. Yeah. I suspect that the producer's already dinging you right now for that plastic before the recycle program. They already are.
100%.
They are. And they may ding you more if there's a return deposit, but yeah. Okay, I don't have a problem with that, but that's what council wishes to do. Any other piece of correspondence? Councillor Chilcott.
I just wanted to say, like, Councilor Emerson said, we used to have a return policy for bottles, pop bottles, cans, everything, right? And it was great, except for where do they store it when it comes back to the store? And that was the biggest issue. I think that's why they kind of put it by the wayside and it was costly, but I do think that it worked. It got the plastics or the cans or the bottles back to the store and then it went on. They charge you more, but then they give you the money back. You don't really win.
From a can perspective, you know, there are always service clubs collecting the cans up, but that's still not going to stop people from pitching them out of the window on the way down the road. I mean, you still have return policies on alcohol products, and some of them make it. Most of them either end up in the ditch or.
Well, there's a
in
specific
recycle.
reason for that because you're not going to drive around with a
partially
with the 6-pack of cans in the passenger.
No, it doesn't make a
seat.
lot of sense. Yeah, yeah. Good point. Not that we're promoting.
No, actually not.
Here. Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to see the diversion rate versus alcoholic beverages versus
Yeah.
non-alcoholic. I bet you'd be
Alright.
surprised.
So there's that. So that's A and B that basically you're talking about supporting. Anything else on the correspondence anyone wants to draw attention to? We just mentioned that item D is an interesting one that if adopted, it might put some more teeth into some of the integrity commission processes. This is something that AMO, Roma have been championing for quite some time, trying to put something out there to give a little more teeth. But this still requires unanimous consent of council as well as the agreement of the Ontario Integrity Commission to be fulfilled. But it's an interesting read. So we'll see how it goes. All right, Madam Clerk.
That items 1311A through E be received for information and that council for the municipality of Bayham supports items A and B.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Emerson, Councillor Froze will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 13.2 reports to council, report CL 1224, Megan Elliott, clerk regarding social media policy. Megan, please. Cole's notes.
Yeah. Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to council. Council has previously discussed the possibility of a Facebook page for BAM and considered a draft social media policy. Direction was given for staff to report back with edits to the policy to include post-only language. The report is presented today with an updated policy for your consideration. Should council wish to enact the attached policy, a bylaw to adopt it would come forth in January, and implementation of the BAM Facebook page would happen in Q1 of 25. If this is what council wishes to move forward with, staff are recommending to keep our Voyant alert for 2025, just so that there's some crossover of the communication platforms. But we would recommend to discontinue it in 26 if the Facebook page is doing well. So I'll leave it with you.
All right, thank you very much. The Facebook page would essentially carry very similar, if not the same information as on the website. And I note in your report that through that staff capacity has been created to deal with a potential post-only Facebook page. Council's discretion. You wish to proceed? It seems to be, to borrow your words, Councillor Emerson, we need to meet them where they are.
That's right.
Okay.
It's a good first step.
All right. Good enough for council? That's an
I so move.
acquiescence?
I so move.
There you go. Moved by Councillor Froze. Get it on the right one here. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Weisler. That report CL 1224, social media policy be received for information. That the draft social media policy be presented for enactment at the January 16th, 2025 regular meeting of council. And then upon policy enactment, staff be directed to proceed with a corporate social media presence in accordance with municipal policy. All in favor? Carried. Item B, report CL 1324 by Megan Elliott, clerk, regarding facility rental policy. Megan?
Thank you again, Your Worship, through you to council. Last meeting, we talked about updated rates and fees, and included in that was some rental facility fees that provided further updates to the facility rental policy. So attached is the updated policy for your consideration, and I'll just note what the changes were. So what has changed in what's presented is that we've updated the scope to include the servery and concrete pad as standalone rentals, updated general provisions to speak to thresholds for full day rentals and when the discounted additional hours are to be applied, updated general provisions to include language to note that the municipality reserves the right to deny any rental request for any reason, and that setup and takedown done by the SHF is not included in the rental time. Updated general provisions to include language to allow the CAO authority to approve rental rates outside of the rates and fees bylaw. Updated general provisions to require bookings in full 1 hour increments, and any half-hour rental requests are at the discretion of the municipality. A new section to define and allow for a discount for recurring recreational bookings. And we've updated the administration to be administered by the CAO. And I'll leave it with you.
Thank you very much, Megan, for that report. Any concerns, questions regarding the rental policy? I'm looking to Dan here. Okay,
One quick little question.
I almost got there.
No.
Councilor Emerson.
Through Mr. Mayor, just at what point, if the volunteers decide not to do the tear down and set up, what's the implication there? Are we gonna quickly change the policy to add the time to the rental facility for setup and tear down? Because someone has to incur a cost.
In my opinion, I think you're absolutely right. Should that occur and we end up with staff that have to do it, then we'd want to revisit the policy in order to determine whether that's part of the service we're going to absorb or whether it's part that we want to apply the benefits principle to. So, but no, it's a very good point. So far, we've been fairly lucky to have volunteers do this for us. Okay.
Hurry.
Okay. That report CL 1324 regarding facility rental policy be received for information, and that council approves the facility rental policy as presented, and that the appropriate bylaw be brought forward to adopt the policy. Mover and seconder, please. Councilor Froese and Councilor Emerson. That's why I was looking for Dan. All in favor? That's moved. Thank you. Moving on with item C, report CAO 5724 by Thomas Thayer, CAO regarding disposition of parts 1 and 2, Plan 11R 10901 John Street. Thomas, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll keep this one brief. Council received at our last meeting a report and bylaw to formally stop up and close parts 1 and 2 on Plan 11R 10901 being part of John Street in Vienna for conveyance. Council did direct this to occur. We've been working with our solicitor on the agreements of purchase and sale for this. They have been created, reviewed by staff, and circulated to the purchasers that are amenable to the conditions. The transactions are noted in the report. Part 1 conveyed to Countryside Communities Incorporated for a price of $15,000, and Part 2 to Richard and Carol Hawley for a price of $15,000. Both purchasers are required to reimburse the municipality for any applicable legal survey and appraisal costs in accordance with policy. These parcels, once acquired, will then merge on title with the abutting lands. For Part 1, we expect that Countryside Communities will be coming forward with a plan of subdivision in short order, as this will give them the lands that they require to meet their plans. So with this in mind, the recommendation before council is to authorize the sale of these lands as noted, and that the appropriate conveyance bylaw be brought forward for council's consideration. This is $30,000 in net revenue that can then go forward to reserve or the Ojibwa reserve, whatever that happens to be. So this is a good news story.
All right, thank you for that. Any questions? This is one of those processes that had begun a couple of years ago and then is now brought back to fruition. So, okay. I'm going to move right into the motion then. That report CAO 5724 regarding disposition of parts 1 and 2, Plan 11R 10901 John Street, Vienna be received for information. And that the Council of the Corporation and Municipality of Bayham authorize the sale of parts 1 and 2 on Plan 11R-10901 being part of John Street, Vienna as follows. Part 1 on Plan 11R-10901 to Countryside Communities Inc. for $15,000 plus applicable costs. And Part 2 on Plan 11R-10901 to Richard and Carol Hawley for $15,000 plus applicable costs, and that the appropriate conveyance bylaw be brought forward for council's consideration. Mover and seconder. I see Councilor Chilcott, Councilor Emerson. All in favor? That's carried. Moving on to section 14, the bylaws. We have 6 bylaws. Bylaw number 24074, a bylaw to provide an interim tax levy. Bylaw number 2024-075, the bylaw to authorize borrowing from time to time. Bylaw number 2024-076, bylaw to convey part of John Street in the municipality of Bayham. Bylaw number 2024-077, bylaw to establish and require the payment of rates and fees. E, bylaw number 2024-078 being a bylaw to adopt a facility rental policy. And F, 2024-079 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of agreement between the municipality of Bayham and Froze Excavating Limited for North Street Drains Works. Any questions on any of these bylaws? Any concerns? Okay, need a mover and seconder for the following: the bylaw numbers 2024-074, 2024-075, 2024-076, 2024-077, 2024-078, and 2024-079 be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Councillor Chilcott, Deputy Mayor Weiser will second. All in favor? That's carried. Which brings us to section 16 in camera. Motion that that council do now rise to enter into an in-camera session at 9:45 PM to discuss a confidential item regarding labor relations, employee negotiations, a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied onto any negotiations on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board. QP. Mover and seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Weiser, Councillor Chilcott will second. All in favor? That's carried. We will temporarily leave you.